Welcome everybody to your qualifying review for round 13 of the Formula 1 2020 season here at Imola for the 2020 Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. What a pleasure it is to see this circuit, to experience a race weekend at Imola. And what was extra unique, extra special about this weekend was our brand new test format of the 2-day Formula 1 weekend. So you may have noticed yesterday we uploaded the preview because there was no running whatsoever on Friday, meaning all the teams, all the drivers had one and a half hour session this morning to get their practice, get their qualifying strategy, race strategy, all of that out of the way, do a quick reset, have a little bite to eat, have a rest, jump back in the cars for qualifying this afternoon. All a little bit jam-packed, all a little bit rushed for the drivers and the teams, but from a fan perspective, the spectacle was awesome. And I think the real mixed up grid we've ended up with today really is a result of that jam-packed schedule. No running on Friday. I quite like it. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comment section down below. But of course, our main talking point of today is qualifying. And as always, spoilers for today's result up ahead in a moment's time. We'll go through the times, have a little bit of a discussion about each driver, each team, driver of the day, and we'll take a look ahead tomorrow and our ones to watch in the Grand Prix. We'll start off though with your times, with your result. Spoiler warning out of the way. Here is your result for qualifying for the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. And for the fourth time in 2020, Valtteri Bottas claimed pole position. And once again, it's been so close between the Mercedes duo. It's less than a tenth between the pair of them. Hamilton again on the front row of the grid. He started on the front row in every single race in 2020, but the real stars of the show up at the front were Mercedes. As always, Verstappen in a class of his own, 5/10 of the pole time set by Bottas, but 3/10 in front of fourth place man Pierre Gasly. This man is in incredible form in 2020. And once again, he's carried that over to this weekend. His joint best ever qualifying in Formula 1. He got fourth place a couple of times for Red Bull last year. Also that incredible fourth place in his first full season all the way back in 2018 at the Bahrain Grand Prix. But nevertheless, an awesome drive today from Pierre Gasly. Daniel Ricciardo P5, a solid job for Renault. Alex Albon, a mad session for him. Everything that could have happened practically happened for Albon today, but considering there was a bit of a scare he could go out in Q1, P6 closer than normal to Max Verstappen in terms of times. Not dreadful, still not great. Charles Leclerc continuing his impressive performances in 2020 in P7. Danny Kvyat for the first time this season into Q3, and it was the two McLarens of Norris and Sainz rounding out your top 10. The big surprise in Q2 was both racing points out. Sergio Perez missing out by 1/100th of a second. So unlucky. However, that racing point is pretty nifty on the alternate strategy on the medium tyres, so keep an eye out for him in tomorrow's Grand Prix. Ocon couldn't also quite manage into Q2 and reach the heights of teammate Ricciardo. He's 12th, and another star of qualifying once again missed his Saturday. George Russell P13 helped a little bit with Sebastian Vettel's fastest time being deleted at the end of the session. However, a great drive from George again into Q2, again in front of Sebastian Vettel, but also in front of Lance Stroll, who's really struggling at the moment to build that bit of momentum, build that little bit of form. And sadly for Lance, he finds himself all the way down in P15. And then out in Q1, our normal candidates, the two Haas cars, Grosjean and Magnussen 16 and 17, Raikkonen the lead Alfa Romeo 18th, Latifi 19th, and home hero Antonio Giovinazzi rounded out your field. I'd like to start our qualifying rundown with that back group actually, that Q1 group, then we'll talk about the Q2 group, and then we'll finally move up into those top teams. I want to really have a discussion about AlphaTauri today, their pace that has seemingly come out of nowhere, and also Alex Albon and the crazy session with both Red Bull cars. But I want to start off with Q1 because it's our normal candidates, the two Alphas, the two Haas cars, and Nicholas Latifi, because it's our normal candidates. Nothing too special here in Q1. Raikkonen and Giovinazzi, the Alfa Romeo car actually a little bit off the pace this weekend. Latifi in that mix of drivers where you usually expect him to be not quite on the level of George Russell, but consistently proving that Williams car is a whole lot better than it's been in the previous 2 seasons. But Alfa didn't really have the pace to challenge today. Raikkonen, one of several drivers today to get their times deleted on his final run, so I believe he would have just scraped through into Q2, but ultimately all the way down in 18th. And Antonio Giovinazzi, our home hero this weekend, couldn't put a lap together. His final run, he was really disappointed. P20, the best he could do at his home Grand Prix. Actually, his 3rd home Grand Prix of a season. Not often we get to say that, but the big story in Q1 was the 2 Haas cars, because I believe they actually had the pace today to get through into Q2. If you saw the timing board a minute ago when it popped up, Grosjean less than a tenth to getting into Q2, Magnussen just over a tenth from getting into Q2, and the big kicker of why they didn't get through was K-Mag making a mistake through the final 2 corners. Haas getting their qualifying strategy. I think they were trying to get a tow with Grosjean in behind, but Magnussen's mistake obviously cost Magnussen a chance of bettering his lap time. He was on a better lap, and Grosjean had to bail out because of all the smoke, had no clue what was going on, and just what was looking like a promising day for the Haas F1 team, ultimately 16th and 17th. If you compare that to their results this season, isn't dreadful. But I do think for the first time this year, there really was an opportunity at getting both cars into Q2. But Q2, as it always is in 2020, so competitive. A whole host of drivers could have got through just on the edge. And once again, when you check those times, 2 tenths was the realistic gap between P10 all the way down to P14 and Sebastian Vettel. The 2 racing points, though, I feel that was the big story in Q2. Lance Stroll, we all know, at the moment, isn't having the best time of it. Has DNF'd or not started every single race since that podium all the way back at Monza, qualifying, whereas at the start of the season it appeared he'd got over some of those bogeys he'd had in the last couple of years of being way off the pace. He's been better this year, but recently that momentum seems to have completely gone out of the window. And once again today, several mistakes, a couple of laps being deleted, 15th, only just in front of the 2 Haas cars, behind Sebastian Vettel and behind George Russell. Not good enough from Lance Stroll. Yes, that Racing Point car wasn't as good as it normally is, or at least comparative to other teams. And yes, Sebastian Vettel and also the Williams of George Russell were a little bit more competitive this weekend. Still a big surprise to see Stroll down in P15. And Sergio, I'm not too worried. He will be disappointed, of course he will, not getting through to Q3. But I think with tyre management, with tyre strategy around this circuit, softer compounds than last time out at Portimao, being on the alternate strategy early doors is really going to play into the hands of a lot of these guys. I don't think Russell, I don't think Vettel are going to be able to push forward in the race, so I think Perez and Ocon are pretty much free to run their own races behind the group behind the 2 Mercedes and Verstappen. So Ocon and Perez, certainly keep an eye out for both of them too. And I really do believe tomorrow's race, overtaking is going to be difficult. Strategy will be king. So maybe even a bit of strategy from Ricciardo, holding up a couple of guys, bringing Ocon into play. But Q2, the big story, the 2 Racing Point cars and another stellar performance from George Russell, proving why the team are keeping him on next year. He's a machine on Saturday. Is there an opportunity for points tomorrow? I actually think there might be. He's not going to be as quick as Ocon, not going to be as quick as Sergio Perez. Stroll may be able to get past him in the early stages. But like Perez and Ocon that I just mentioned, the alternate strategy I think could really come into play. And if Williams can maybe put on the hard tyres, go really long into the Grand Prix, wait for a safety car or just wait for a mega overcut like we saw last time out at Portimao, this circuit, I would say, along with the Hungaroring in Hungary all the way back at the start of the season, is our 2020 version of Monaco and Singapore. Overtaking is going to be difficult. I even think with DRS, it's going to be quite a challenge for a lot of these guys to make overtakes. So if Williams play their cards right, we know this year they've been quite strong with strategy. Obviously, it hasn't amounted to points just yet. but there's an opportunity tomorrow. We saw Grosjean get 2 a few races ago now at Germany. Giovinazzi got a point as well. So there's certainly opportunities there for points tomorrow. And our top 10, there were quite a lot of stories. McLaren, both cars through into the top 10, 9th and 10th. It's an okay result. It's not quite the performances we were used to at the start of 2020, but we've seen over the last few Grand Prix, McLaren slipping back a little bit, either behind Racing Point, Renault, and I don't think anyone was expecting the performance from AlphaTauri this weekend. I think McLaren will be aware, though, the threat will be from behind. They'd love to be able to move forward. Leclerc's Ferrari, you're never quite sure how that's going to perform in the Grand Prix. Danny Kvyat, that AlphaTauri looks good, but Kvyat's not been in the best of form of late, so maybe Norris and Sainz will look to overtake those guys nice and early, but they will know the real threat is going to come from the likes of Perez and Ocon. Charles Leclerc, once again, makes it into Q3 in that very strange performing Ferrari where one weekend it seems quite solid in qualifying, solid in the race. Other weekends it's good in one session, not the other. All over the place. Their third chance of a good result at a home Grand Prix this year. 7th isn't too bad, only just behind the Red Bull of Alex Albon. Leclerc can be happy with that. And Daniel Ricciardo, the other driver, that's not a Mercedes, an AlphaTauri or Red Bull, that I just want to quickly mention, Danny Ric. A big surprise today, actually. Looking at Renault's pace in Q1, in Q2, and also in practice this morning, I was quite surprised when Ricciardo just sneaked into Q3. I thought where Ocon is was about the relative pace of that Renault this weekend. So to score a big result like a P5, his joint best of the season, he will be absolutely chuffed with that. Of course, started 5th with that incredible podium he got a couple of races ago in Germany. Is there a possibility he can repeat that performance this weekend? Maybe, depending on how scruffy the start is for a couple of guys up ahead and if there's any kind of engine issues. That could play into the hands of Danny Ric. And we saw engine issues today. We saw power unit issues, spark plug issues at Red Bull Racing. Max Verstappen, he's a lucky boy. Well, is he a lucky boy? We know how good those Red Bull and Honda mechanics are, proving they're worth their bang for their buck today. What a sensational turnaround. Myself, along with a lot of people, I think, believed as soon as Verstappen came in, saying that he's got no power, Red Bull saying they need to do a spark plug change, there's only about 10 minutes left. I thought he was done for. I thought he was out in Q2. I thought Albon, for the first time this year, is going to out-qualify him. And it's going to, well, I did think it would be quite fun for the Grand Prix, seeing Verstappen work his way through the field. We've not really seen that in 2020. Honda's reliability has been so much better this year than it was last season. But Red Bull turned it around, got him out with about 4 minutes to go, put on the medium tyres. I mean, come on, they were so confident he would get through, banged in a lap. I think he finished 4th in Q2, ultimately going on to finish 3rd overall. There were probably quite a few tetchy and nervous boys and girls within that Red Bull garage, and on the pit wall, certainly Christian Horner, I think, was a little bit unsure of how it was going to play out, but as we are so used to in 2020. Max Verstappen, consistent as always, wringing the neck out of that Red Bull car. What more can you ask from the Flying Dutchman? The other side of the garage wasn't quite as plain sailing. Albon several times struggling to keep that Red Bull within the white lines. Q1 in particular almost going out in Q1, and if he'd messed up that final lap would have been all the way down, I believe, in P19, but ultimately was just able to get a lap together, scrape through into Q2. In Q2, a very similar story. Track limits once again, had a spin almost into the wall. It just seemed like everything he was trying to do in those early sessions wasn't coming together. He couldn't get a clean lap. Thankfully, in Q3, it all came together. Wasn't an incredible lap, still 4/10 off his teammate, but that's closer than he's been for the last 4 or 5 Grand Prix. He'll be annoyed. He's behind Daniel Ricciardo. He'll be very frustrated. He's once again behind Pierre Gasly. But by getting through into Q3, getting into that top 6, there are opportunities tomorrow, because we all know he's got a car that can get him 4th place tomorrow. He's just got to deliver that performance. So looking forward to seeing what Alex can do tomorrow. The big surprise then, before we just briefly mention Mercedes, AlphaTauri. 8th for Danny Kvyat doesn't sound super fancy, but it's the first time since Mexico last year, the second time in 30 Grand Prix, he's got into Q3, and he's a driver like Magnussen, like Perez, really unsure about their future. They'd love to continue in F1, but the opportunities are running out. Danny Kvyat needed this performance today. He'll be annoyed, just like Albon, that he's behind Pierre Gasly, but I think for Kvyat, getting that chip off his shoulder, finally into Q3 this year, that's a big, big result. So, fair play to Danny Kvyat, but we've got to acknowledge Pierre Gasly. Another magical performance, an awesome drive. He's already signed up for next year, and that bit of added security, just knowing where his future lies, even that, I don't think it's added much this year because he just has been that good in 2020. You kind of run out of things to say. 4th place, his joint best ever qualifying. Is there anything this man cannot do? A chance for another podium tomorrow as well. If something happens up ahead, maybe even strategy. Maybe AlphaTauri could take the fight to Red Bull. Such was the pace of that AlphaTauri car, especially in the hands of Pierre Gasly today. I'm so happy for him, so delighted for him. And if he continues, well, how he started this weekend, he should have a mega result in tomorrow's Grand Prix. And finally, Mercedes. Class of their own, as they always are in 2020. Less than a 10th between the two of them. It's been nip and tuck all year long. And though Hamilton, for the majority of Grand Prix this year, 9 of them to be exact, has had the edge for the 4th time this year, Bottas claims pole. And I think he needed that. Yes, the title hunt is almost over, but not just yet. And the longer he can just keep prolonging that, taking it closer and closer to Abu Dhabi, I think is a respectable job from Valtteri Bottas. Before we go then, let's just take a quick look at ones to watch. And first up, our driver of the day. I'm sure you can all guess who it's going to be. Possible other candidates: George Russell, Valtteri Bottas, Charles Leclerc. But you guys aren't stupid. You already know who it is. Pierre Gasly. 4th place, AlphaTauri at their home Grand Prix. His best ever qualifying. I mean, what more can you say? Ricciardo as well, another really good shot. I mean, I don't think that Renault is as quick as the AlphaTauri this weekend, so Ricciardo certainly in with the shot of driver of the day, but I'm giving it to Gasly. Once again, just proving how good and how much talent and potential there still is. Awesome stuff from Pierre. And my ones to watch for tomorrow, I've kind of already alluded to this as well, but I've put Pierre Gasly. I really would love him to take the fight to Red Bull and Max Verstappen. Maybe that's wishful thinking, but he's on my ones to watch list. Esteban Ocon in P12, I think he has the potential to repeat what he did last time out at Portimao. Max Verstappen, I think, can go one of two ways. Race pace could potentially take the fight to Mercedes, or could be in a battle with Pierre Gasly. But my F1E ones to watch for the Emilia Romagna Grand Prix is Sergio Perez, a driver whose future isn't secure yet. 11th place, alternate strategy. There's work to do, but I think if anyone can make it work, make the tyres last, put a performance together worthy of an F1 drive for next year, it's Sergio Perez. And that is it for your qualifying review here at Imola for the round 13 Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. I'll be back tomorrow evening for your race review here in Italy. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Driver of the day, ones to watch for tomorrow's Grand Prix. Enjoy the race tomorrow, guys, and I hope to see you all in the next one.